I've been replaying Devil May Cry 1. It had been a long time since I had actually played it. Since the last time. We're talking about more than 20 years because I did play it in, I think, as soon as it came out in my region, in the PAL territory. So I assume it was end of 2001, more or less. And yeah, it got me thinking how it still holds up. Actually, I'll make a video about that, about Devil May Cry 1. This portion I wanted to include in the Devil May Cry 1 video, but I don't know how much time it will take me to make that one. So in this video I want to mention how I miss those times in relation to, I mean, in the general industry, but also in terms of Capcom. Because back in that time, we were all waiting for Resident Evil 4 when it comes to Capcom. That was the main project, let's say. After having played Resident Evil 3 and also Code Veronica. Yeah, by that time you will have played Code Veronica as well, by late 2001. And if you were in any way a fan of Capcom games, you were excited in that period of time, before and slightly after the launch of the PS2, because you were curious. You were asking yourself, what are they gonna do? What kind of games are they gonna come up with? Because they did pretty well for themselves in the PS1 generation. So people were hyped. I was hyped. I was waiting. Resident Evil 4 was one of my most anticipated games of all time back then. And so I was wondering, what are they gonna come up with? If only did I know. If you were following in any way the developments regarding the Capcom games that were in development those years, I think they were mostly Resident Evil 4, Devil May Cry, and Onimusha as well. Those were the three main projects, next-gen projects at least, when it comes to the next generation, PlayStation 2. At the time, there was only the PlayStation 2. The Dreamcast was out of business by that time. So we were, I was mostly waiting for Resident Evil 4, but I did find Devil May Cry interesting as a project. And yeah, I miss this Capcom. I think in this period of time, Capcom was the most creative it's ever been, at least when it comes to 3D games. Like, for example, the thing that makes me really impressed with their creative process is that they were able to come up with 3 different games just going by a simple concept. As you probably know already, Resident Evil 4 was supposed to be the game with Leon and him going to Europe and the castle and rescuing Sherry, and he got infected with the progenitor virus and so on. But that got scrapped, I mean, as you already know. And yeah, from that like blueprint, so the hero goes to Europe in a castle to rescue the blonde girl, they managed to carve out 3 different games, because Devil May Cry 1, of course, was supposed to be Resident Evil 4, and you can tell. Plus the Resident Evil 4, the main game, of course, because the concept is still Leon goes to Europe to save the blonde girl. But also Memento, Haunting Ground, takes place in a castle with a blonde girl, and the Resident Evil 4 dog as co-protagonist, I guess you can say, as sidekick. And I mean, you can argue, yeah, that was also because at the time the industry was different. Taking risks was still encouraged in a way. That's why they were able to get away with this in the sense that they were able to make 3 different games with the same simple concept, with a very similar blueprint. Nowadays, something like that will never happen. No software house will actually recycle the same concept three times in a very creative way, because Devil May Cry, Resident Evil 4, and Haunting Ground are three very different games. And I mean, I haven't played Haunting Ground, so I can't really tell how good it is. I've seen people claim it's an interesting game, but very flawed. But the fact that they were able to put out two very good games, I would say masterpieces for their time. Devil May Cry 1, genre-defying games. Devil May Cry 1 created the whole genre. Resident Evil 4 as well revolutionized the whole industry. They were able to create two extremely important and influential games out of a very simple concept, and be able to recycle the concept in an interesting way. Because yeah, you can tell Devil May Cry 1 was a Resident Evil game at first, but it has its own identity. It's not just Resident Evil recycled, it's something completely different. And it's very interesting to play that game, to replay that game with the knowledge of Resident Evil 4 that I have now, because back then, when I played Devil May Cry 1 for the first time, Resident Evil 4 was not out yet. So now you can see the similarities between the two games. For example, the section in the sewers in Devil May Cry 1, you can tell that's straight up like also present in Resident Evil 4 with the Novistadores, and the same Devil May Cry 1 with the insects. Yeah, that struck me. I said, damn, this is Resident Evil 4. This is proto Resident Evil 4. And I mean, some other things as well, especially the ending. It's pretty much the same concept. They both Leon and Dante escape from the island with Leon with a jet ski and Dante with a plane. So the two games feel different but still similar in a way. They have the same soul, you can say, a very similar skeleton and the same soul. And after that, like I've said multiple times in my previous videos, after the departure of people like Kamiya, Mikami, Inaba, and all the raw talent that Capcom used to have in that period of time, yeah, they definitely took a big hit in terms of output and its quality. And they haven't been the same ever since. The next generation, they were able to put out some decent games, but the decline was already starting to show in their projects. And it's not just Capcom, of course, but Capcom was especially egregious because they were pretty much pioneers of many things, of many concepts, of many games in the PS2 era, but in the PS3 generation they started to drop the ball with their whole trying to westernize their games. So they try to pander to the West too much, and in fact I will argue that in that generation the best games they made, they were still developed in-house in Japan. So think Street Fighter 4, Resident Evil 5, Lost Planet. Dead Rising 1 is another big example. The first one was developed in-house in Japan, and in my opinion it's still the best game in the series, while the sequels were made in the West. Actually, yes. Dead Rising exemplifies Capcom's decline by chasing the Western clout and forgetting about what made their games great in the first place, their in-house talent, which nowadays they don't have much of it anymore, but at the time it was pretty big. So let me know your thoughts as usual about this whole thing. Like, were you hyped as well for what Capcom was gonna do in the early years of the PS2 generation? I mean, those years were magic because, like I said, the jump between generations, especially when it comes to the generation between the PS1 and the PS2. The PS2 gen was probably one of the most hyped generations ever. Coming off the PS1, there was so much hype, so many games, interesting games announced. It was really probably the best time to play games because there was a lot of exploration, a lot of uncertainty because you didn't know what Software House were about to do. They were about to surprise you with cool games and such, and the focus was just mostly on gaming. No other bullshit like services, marketing, politics, straight up gaming. But yeah, like I said, let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye bye, guys.